Welcome to Project Planning and Control, PP&C, Foundations for Integrated Program Success. This is Course 1, Module 1. Module 1 introduces the integration mindset, which is critical to the PP&C function. PP&C is planning and control. It is much more than mere compliance or reporting. We will teach you the PP&C hierarchy, moving you from a data collector to a strategic assessor who informs management. Without the integration mindset, PP&C functions remain siloed, providing fragmented, unusable data. Let's look closer at what you will be able to do at the end of this foundational module. The ultimate value of integration is avoiding the negative consequences of siloed PP&C reporting. You need to clearly define the difference between planning, which sets the baseline, and control, which manages performance against it. Recognizing all PP&C functions are intertwined allows you to build a single, consistent project story. Our focus will be entirely on the perspective of the PP&C integrator. This role, sometimes called either analyst, business manager, or project controls manager, is the focal point for all program planning and control activities. The integrator's core responsibility is ensuring all PP&C functions, like cost, schedule, and risk, tell one consistent story. This role acts as the central liaison, translating technical performance into business and financial terms for leadership. We clarify the distinction between the integrator and the analyst roles. In many organizations, the same personnel are fulfilling both the integrator and the analyst function. The analyst function is about deep dives and producing the numbers. The integrator synthesizes those numbers for decisions. To be an effective integrator, you must master the details of the analyst role to ensure data quality. We are now surveying the current budget and project landscape. The major reality is reduced budgets and the increased pressure to constantly achieve more with less. Projects must demonstrate flexibility and adapt their processes to suit a wide array of constraints and conditions. Rigid processes and an inability to flex to budget constraints are a fast track to project failure. Another major trend is the ongoing commercialization of government work. Government agencies are increasingly purchasing a service from industry rather than owning the asset. This shift requires business professionals to be multifunctional and view the business team as a strategic partner to the technical team. Your ability to partner strategically is vital when the government is relying on a service delivery model. A fundamental challenge in PP&C is the disconnect between the planned versus the actual outcome. What the project believes the cost and schedule will be is often drastically different from what it eventually becomes. The analyst's job is to assess all factors, cost, schedule, risk, workforce, and provide early insight into problems. Early detection and intervention by the analyst are the most valuable services you can provide to a project. This is the typical, sobering project reality chart. Unfortunately, this chart depicting cost and schedule overruns is what happens more often than not. This visual underscores the dire need for the core PP&C function to integrate and proactively manage project health. Your mission is to move your project away from this typical reality through rigorous planning and integrated control. Let's now formally define the two core components of PP&C. Planning is setting the executable path. Control is managing performance against that path. You must master both phases, understanding that the quality of your planning directly dictates the ease of your control phase. Without a solid foundation in the fundamentals, your ability to integrate and control is severely limited. We detail the core components of the PP&C function. The two phases, planning and control, are separated by the formal baseline, which is the output of planning. All PP&C functions, cost, schedule, risk, and the other items listed, must integrate to form a single project story. If your risk management and schedule management functions are not integrated, your baseline is not credible. The goal of the planning phase is to produce an executable plan to control. Initial planning includes scope definition, strategy, and risk identification, which feeds into plan refinement. The output must include an integrated cost and schedule baseline, defined risk list, and various executable control plans. A non-executable plan will doom the control phase. Planning must fully assess and refine the proposed path. The control phase relies on the executable plan created during integrated planning. The process moves from gathering data to analysis, assessment, and finally, management action. Your analysis must effectively communicate the story, connect cost, schedule, and risk trends, and identify key project drivers. The control process ultimately feeds back into management decisions on adjusting plans, replanning, and revising the estimate at completion. This chart illustrates the interconnectedness of all PP&C functions. Integration is at the center because none of these disciplines can operate effectively in isolation. You must understand the inputs and outputs between functions, such as how schedule management feeds into cost execution. A strong EVM program is useless if it is built on a non-integrated schedule or an incomplete risk posture. The cornerstone of PP&C is the concept of integration, and the key takeaway is the supreme importance of PP&C integration. You cannot solve problems with siloed project data. Integration is the key to decision-ready insights. Everything we've discussed, planning, control, and the functions, hinges on successful integration. When you hear PP&C, think integration, because that is the differentiator between reporting and assessing. We define the specific importance and function of integration. Integration ensures consistency across all baselines: scope, cost, schedule, risk, and performance. The goal is to move analysts from simple data reporters to strategic assessors and decision-makers. Leadership needs decision-ready insights, not fragmented reports. Integration is the bridge to that level of assessment. This is the value proposition of integration for the project team. Integration creates a single source of truth for project status, which enables proactive decision-making. Aligned PP&C insights, technical progress, and risks give the team early warning of variances and issues. Consistent, transparent reporting across functions builds critical credibility with all external stakeholders. We examine the essential cross-flow of inputs and outputs between the core functions. This is where the rubber meets the road. The schedule drives the phasing of costs, and risks impact EVM. You must be able to trace how a change in one function, like a schedule slip, immediately impacts another, like cost. Budgeting and cost are not aligned if budget constraints are not used to justify the estimates and schedules. Integration is essential during the early planning phase. Integration aligns cost, schedule, risk, and resources, ensuring consistent assumptions across all disciplines. Early integration helps identify the critical path, major cost drivers, and risk drivers before the baseline is approved. A successfully integrated planning phase results in a credible baseline that enhances confidence for major program reviews. We focus specifically on how integration applies to developing the schedule. Cost estimates inform the resources loaded onto the schedule, and risk analysis defines the necessary schedule margin. Integration ensures every activity is logically tied to the work breakdown structure and associated cost accounts. A well-integrated schedule is the required foundation for all future performance measurement, including earned value management. This shows the role of integration when developing the cost estimate. Schedule milestones are used to define the appropriate phasing of costs over the project's life. Risks and uncertainties must drive cost ranges and the proper use of joint confidence level analysis. Cross-discipline validation is non-negotiable. It is what strengthens the estimate's credibility with stakeholders. Integration continues during the cost control during implementation phase. EVM is the key tool that integrates cost and schedule performance for effective ongoing control. Integrated reporting is crucial for highlighting trends and variances and for informing management reserve usage. Your goal is a comprehensive set of actionable information, not just separate cost and schedule variance reports. These are the dire consequences of absent or failed integration. Absent integration results in fragmented insights and inconsistent baselines across the project. Inconsistent data leads to delayed decisions and reduced leadership credibility, which causes stakeholders to lose confidence. The ultimate failure is the increased risk of overruns because of misaligned scope, schedule, and cost baselines. We introduced the 5-level PP&C hierarchy concept. The hierarchy moves from data capture at the bottom to informing management at the top, increasing in maturity. Every PP&C professional must understand where they sit on the hierarchy and what steps they need to take to move up. The hierarchy is central to the project control process and serves as a roadmap for your professional development. Now we move from data collection to self-reflection and judgment as an integrator. Your role is not to compile reports, but to ask the right questions about risk, think like a review board, and provide proactive, actionable recommendations. Credible integrators go beyond reporting. They deliver value-added insight, challenge assumptions, and identify gaps, inconsistencies, and emerging risks. This requires balanced, objective thinking, never presenting opinion as fact, but offering clear, thoughtful analysis that supports decision-making. Your influence comes not from being right, but from building trust through sound judgment and credibility. Focus equally on understanding the current environment and shaping the future outcome of the project. Anticipate risks even when they are not fully visible in metrics. Ultimately, the integrator role is defined by how you influence outcomes, not just what you report. It requires confidence, adaptability, and strong interpersonal judgment, knowing when to compromise and when to stand firm. Success comes from balancing fiduciary responsibility, functional excellence, and value creation. This is how you maximize your impact and credibility on the project team. You can refer to the PP&C Integrator Playbook found within the Canvas LMS resources to use as a checklist with specific questions for application. Here are 3 questions to check your understanding of Module 1 concepts. The key to the first question is that analysis is what the data says, and assessment is what it means. Knowing the consequences of absent integration is vital for making the business case for PP&C investment. Recall the PP&C hierarchy to place telling the story, which is synthesis, correctly at a higher maturity level. We now transition from the fundamentals of PP&C to the broader project context. Every project needs a source of funds to perform the PP&C functions we've discussed. The most foundational question for any project is, where does the money actually come from? Understanding the money flow explains the timing and constraints that are placed on all government programs.